Professor, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
There's been tension in Kashmir region since probably even before the 90s. Why is Kashmir, and for the sake of our viewers, why is Kashmir such a contended part for both India and Pakistan?
Yeah, Kashmir is a contested part because many countries claim the place. Not just even India and Pakistan. China also has a claim to Kashmir. And it has historical roots. It has roots in British colonial rule over India, the then India. You recall that the British came to India in the 18th century and governed the place, for a long time until India became independent in 1947. During this period, the Kashmir area was somewhat autonomous. The Sikhs were there, and the British acquired, established their rule over the place. So when independence was granted to India in 1947, and of course to Pakistan, India and Pakistan were actually one country until that time. Yes. They couldn't agree also, just they are not agreeing now, and they had to partition India, Pakistan, and both of them got independence in 1947. It was in the course of that partitioning that the job was not neatly done, such that both countries now contest the place. So the northernmost part of the Indian subcontinent. So India, Pakistan, claim the place, and they still claim the place today. There are some arrangements now where India controls some part, Pakistan controls some part, even China controls some part of the area.
Yeah, and
because the demarcation was not very clear in 1947, such that many countries now claim the valley, the valley, and that large territory.
Yeah, you're right about that. Not only China as well, I think Nepal even also claims a part of the Kashmir region. So there's an agreement on the ground, that demarcates the region into the Indian administered Kashmir region, and then there's also the Pakistani administered Kashmir region. Both sides have kept to this as much as they can, but how do you think that arrangement is going in light of what is happening now?
It has not been neat. Even before the 70s, there had been wars, over the Kashmir area. In August and September 1965, for instance, there was this large violent conflict that took place between India and Pakistan in the Kashmir area. International interventions had to, take place, be carried out, and the UN Security Council had to intervene. There was one resolution then, 211, which helped to resolve the conflict at that time, and then provided some measures, which has ensured a measure of stability in the place. But of course, it's uneasy calm really that has been in that area over these many decades. Unfortunately, those tensions continue to come up from time to time. Of course, the most recent of which has been that attack, on those tourists a few weeks ago, and of course, India's response last night, which has brought the current, contemporary crisis between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. So that is how it has been. There has not really been absolute stability in the place since 1947. Sometimes there is some calm, and sometimes something comes up which creates tension and sometimes violence, just as we have seen in the last few weeks in the Kashmir.
Right, and talking about the attack that happened, on the border in April, this is a couple of weeks ago, 26 people were killed, 25 Indians, 1 Nepali. The Indian government vowed to find the terrorists, even to the ends of the earth, the words of the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Why has there been so much insistence, not been as much insistence, beg your pardon, from this side of the Pakistanis? They haven't even condemned the violence that happened. They haven't even tried to debunk any link to the terrorists who carried out the attack.
Yes, that is what is surprising. because how governments have addressed terrorist attacks over the years is that when it occurs, governments come together to try to find those who have carried it out, the perpetrators, and bring them to justice. But in this case, Pakistan has not come out to condemn the terrorists and hasn't done anything concrete to show that it is opposed to what they have done and that it is interested in looking for them and then bringing them to justice. That is why India is angry. And you can understand the anger of India, because if such a thing happens, there is no country on earth, no matter how small the country is, and India is by no means a small country, that would go away quietly and do nothing when the other country has done no concrete thing to show that it condemns it and is supporting efforts to bring the perpetrators to justice. That makes Pakistan's position very suspicious as to whether it was not in support of that attack, and this is where the whole thing is tricky. If Pakistan had come out to condemn it, show solidarity with India, and then give assurance in identifying them and bringing them to justice, India will not respond the way it has done. India has responded the way it has done because Pakistan has done virtually nothing to show that it is interested in, justice for those who were killed a few weeks ago. So one has to ask the Pakistanis, even though they are saying, "Oh, India has come to kill civilians in their country and all that," threatening fire and brimstone. One has to ask, how come the Pakistanis have not taken measures to ensure that these terrorists are brought to justice since this, attack occurred a few weeks ago? And how come they have not condemned it and, assured India of their willingness to ensure that this terrorist attack does not go unpunished? These are the questions that those who will mediate in this conflict will need to ask Pakistan.
Yeah, and we're looking at what could be potentially another war between India and Pakistan from the war that they fought many years ago. Both countries are nuclear powers. How quickly could this situation go south?
It could. One cannot predict once they begin like this, and with the rhetoric that is so, feisty, things could just go, haywire. Which is why some efforts that have been made here and there to tell the two countries to, de-escalate tension and all that, such comments are welcome. The British Prime Minister has spoken, is willing to mediate. The Americans, well, not as one will expect. Trump just says it's a shame, as he always says, and all that, but hasn't said anything concrete about intervening. You can't tell how things quickly degenerate. And that is why intervention to resolve this conflict that looks very little now, but will become so extensive if nothing concrete is done to bring the parties at war, or parties at war to some kind of understanding. So this could turn topsy-turvy as quickly as one can imagine. Like you said, both countries are nuclear power. They acquired nuclear weapons in 1998. Of course, we always have some assurance that countries that have nuclear weapons know the consequences of using them, and that they are supposed to be using it for deterrence and not for actual fighting. But you may never know, and that is why a quick intervention to resolve this conflict will be a welcome thing, not only for India and Pakistan, but for the entire international community.
Yeah, and you talked about those international mediations, and I see that a lot of it is tending towards India, calling for nerves not to be frayed, calling for dousing of tensions and all of that. Why do you think there is none of this pressure being put on Pakistan as much as a lot of pressure is put on India? It almost seems like the rest of the world or world leaders know the potential of India in this case.
I think attention is turned to India because it was India that attacked last night. And the thinking is that if India stops the attack, it will create the environment for mediators to come in to mediate. And that if the attacks continue, to make mediation very difficult, because Pakistan will be compelled to also defend itself. Even though the origin of the conflict itself, the casus belli, is the attack and the killing of those tourists in the Indian side, on the Indian side of Kashmir. But the fact that it was India that attacked last night, the thinking of those who want to mediate is that India has to halt attacks first to give some assurance to Pakistan for mediation to take place. That's why I think the attention is turned to India at this time. But when full mediation commences, of course, the questions I asked earlier regarding why Pakistan has been so lukewarm about cooperating to find those terrorists and bringing them to justice will be asked. And those are the issues that will have to be, honestly discussed and some answers provided before some permanent resolution to this conflict can take place. So for now, attention is to India because it was India that attacked, and that attack has to cease, at least for some time, before mediation can take place. All of these are understood by those who are interested in mediating in this conflict.
Wow, it does seem like there might be a bit more mediation coming up in the following weeks. Professor Awarawo, thank you so much for joining us to discuss this.
It's my pleasure.